Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good Wednesday morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube. This is the Early Bird Special on this Wild Thing Wednesday. I am Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky! You awake
Congratulations to those Cavs.
We weren't going to get into that yet, but
I know.
I'm sorry, my friend. I told you. I
still
tried
got that
to
bad
warn
taste
you.
in my mouth, but
135, 113.
it
right?
got close for about
It did.
4 minutes.
It did. Well, and you guys weren't playing. You guys were playing without Lonzo and Giddey, but we'll get into that in a quick sec. Let them know what else we got, my friend.
Oh, the coach firings in the NBA. We'll get into that. We'll talk about Luka being ejected, and of course, we'll preview the big game where he returns to Dallas tonight. It is Wild Thing Wednesday, so we'll have some wild stories. If you have some wild stories, you can text and call in anytime from 7 to 9 at 661-842-2000. Text in anytime, or you can just call and jump into the conversation. We'll also talk about a new fan club
In the MLB.
and I'll leave it as that. We'll talk about, we got a new segment. I'm going to say Burdick's the GM, and we're going to bounce some trade offers before this draft day. If there'll be any trades, there's an NFL quarterback that hasn't got signed yet, and we'll get much, much more, even a close story to home, talking UFC and much, much more right here on the Early Bird Special.
One of the most polarizing stories in UFC lately, especially Cain Velasquez has been moved to Wasco prison. We can get into that in the 8 o'clock hour, obviously, but there's a lot of people who are not very happy with the decision that was made to put Cain in prison, and we'll explain exactly why in the second hour. However, the big story of the day, or really of last night, happened right after our show, but the Denver Nuggets have moved on from their decade-long partnership with Mike Malone, head coach, as well as the GM, but Malone, being the number one winning coach in franchise history, won them a championship just a few years ago with Jokic and Jamal Murray. The Nuggets have had a very, very rough injury-riddled season. Murray currently dealing with injuries. I believe he's supposed to be back by playoff time, or at least they're hoping he is. Aaron Gordon, top defender on the team, also dealing with a lot of injuries. But there's been a lot of brewing around the internet, and that's why I'm happy that we were able to sit and wait on this one a little bit to gain a little bit more information on potentially what could have happened. But I followed the Nuggets loosely. I won't lie. Growing up, obviously being a LeBron James fan and the Cleveland Cavaliers, I was also a huge fan of Carmelo Anthony when he was there with the Denver Nuggets, especially when he played in college for the Syracuse Orange. So loosely became I wouldn't call myself a fan, but if I had a West Coast team, I'd say it'd be the Denver Nuggets. It's just because they're the closest I follow. And I had heard brewings of the last couple months that there were a lot of butting heads between Malone and the GM, whose name I am drawing a blank on.
Booth.
Booth, thank you. And the team currently right now sits 47-32. I believe they still have the number 4 seed in the West, unless the Clippers jumped over them last night. I'm not 100% sure. I forgot to look at the standings this morning. Sparky is looking for that as we speak. But there's been brewings that the GM and the head coach in Denver did not get along, regardless of the success that Malone has had. Now, again, Malone with 10 seasons with the team had a 471 and 327 record. It's 471 wins to 327 losses for those of you who don't follow.
Yeah, and Denver and the Clippers swapped.
Okay, so
they're at 5 now.
Denver is at 5. I had a feeling if Denver won, or I'm sorry, if the Clippers won last night, they would jump. But let's listen to a little bit from Mike Malone. This was a couple games ago during the post-game press conference. Now, you can clearly hear there is a lot of frustration in this man's voice. So go ahead, Spark.
My job is to be honest. It was a brutally honest message, and the guys that are full won't hear it. They'll say coach is tripping. And the guys that maybe do really care will, because they're not going to go back and watch their minutes, because nobody watches their minutes. Nobody watches film. We'll have to show them the film. And I said, if somebody disagrees with me, please speak up. And nobody said a word. Each guy's got to look themselves in the mirror and start coming to each respective game with the proper mindset and have some pride.
Now, that is a frustrated head coach. If anybody has coached at any level, now mind you, my coaching experience is all of Pee Wee football, so don't take me for granted or for sure here. But you can hear the frustration in his voice. You can hear that clearly there are people in this locker room that either don't respect Mike Malone or just don't care for the way he coaches. There have been plenty of coaches back, dating the 70s, 80s, 90s who demand this of their players. Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, I'm sure. Lenny Wilkins. Yeah. So being a professional athlete, I don't know about you, Sparky. This is just something that pops into my head, but don't you think watching film and improving your game kind of, comes with that job?
Yeah, it comes with the job. And you can just hear in his voice, man. He is
and he doesn't say any names. We still have no idea exactly who he's talking about here. It's much like the Antonio Pierce situation last football season when we heard there are people that are taking plays off. Mind you, just so you guys know, Jones was let go by the Raiders a couple days ago. The guy who we are 95% sure, although it was never said verbatim, was the player that Anthony Pierce was talking about. So obviously the front office cares.
Who was he talking about?
Jack Jones, I believe, the cornerback.
The guy that they just released?
Yes.
The corner?
The corner.
Yeah.
That was the player in question from what the internet says. So, again,
well, I understand
allegedly.
The whole Denver, parting ways with the GM and head coach. You can't put up with that type of stuff when you're running a $1 million
but that's
team. But my question is the timing.
Right. And obviously this was brought up by multiple athletes last night, including Shaquille O'Neal and Vince Carter. Shaq says it beautifully, and let's hear from him real quick, and then we will expand a little bit more.
Everything he said at the beginning was correct. Kudos to him for holding these players accountable. All of these guys ain't held accountable no more because, like Candace said, the money and the likes and all that. I had 2 coaches like that held me accountable. That's why I can easily sit up here and say, I got 4. Phil Jackson got in my ass all the time. Pat Riley got in my ass all the time. And he's correct. His seating is the way it is because Murray was injured and Gordon was injured. But despite all that, despite what's going on, they still have some type of home court advantage. When we won in Miami, we were awful the whole year. We got beat by Chicago by 40. We had a meeting. We started fighting. GP and D-Wade was going at it. Me and Antoine was going at it. And then, because
we should have beat y'all, by the way.
That's right. Y'all should have. But, the season is about peaks and valleys, right? As long as you peak at the right time. Like, it doesn't matter what happened in the regular season. If I got home court advantage and we played pretty good at home and I got Murray stepping up and I got Gordon stepping up and we make it to the second round, we have a chance. So I would like to see him, if it didn't work after the year, say, Coach Malone, thank you for what you've done.
That was during the pregame yesterday before ESPN's NBA on ESPN broadcasts. But he brings up a very good point. I meant to break that up into 2 bites, actually. But the first part of what he says, you need coaches to hold players accountable. 1, 2, that Candace, and the part that was not said yet was Candace Parker brought up a very good point. We don't have to play the bite, Sparky. But Candace brought up that long be it of the days of Greg Popovich and these great head coaches, because front offices now are grading head coaches on a 5-year scale. Essentially, if you can't keep attention for 5 years, they're going to let you go. And that's essentially what people are saying happened here, is that we're on year 10. Mike Malone, for some reason, just didn't have the locker room, so they let him go. I don't see that being the case. You're 4 games away from the playoffs. I think something deeper happened here, like an argument between the head coach and the GM.
Which, I'm sure we'll find out here in a couple weeks.
Sure we will, because why fire both? You know what I mean? Like, if you weren't happy, this isn't a Memphis-like situation. Memphis, the writing was on the wall with Jenkins last year when they let go of his entire side staff and pretty much told him, you're here, but we're going to have a hand in what you do.
Yeah, but when there are 4 or 5 games left in the season, that's just
This
something
is wild.
should have
Something
stepped over that
happened.
line.
Right. Something happened to force the hand of letting go of Coach Malone and the GM. We do not know what that is, or if we're even correct. This is all speculation. But in my personal opinion, something happened in the front office to make this happen. I don't think it was necessarily a move because they weren't happy with the direction of the team. As we said, the team's been injury riddled. And let's not forget, about a week ago, before this show started on the radio, the Nuggets went to the number 1 and number 2 overall seeds in the West, the Oklahoma City Thunder and Houston, beat both of them pretty handily, but then for some reason went to Minnesota, lost in overtime off of a 61-point triple-double by Jokic, and have not been, like, it seems like the air has just been taken out of the room.
Yeah, and I mean, what I've read, it's either the ownership's just reasoning, which you just broke down with these clips, whether it's that or just, too many misses from the GM. I know Malone struggled, like he had said, with the ownership of the team, with just keeping these players in check, or something had to happen between the GM and the head coach.
Somebody wasn't respecting the head coach.
Or Denver just simply isn't good enough. But
well, I'm gonna have to argue on that one because I think they are good enough. Let's not forget this is a team that was
not
top
standings
in the league.
wise. I'm just saying, like, he went off. I'm saying he's not getting players aren't watching tape.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe it was just the respect in the locker room.
Defensively, they have fallen off since the year that they won the championship. The year they won the chip, they were the number 1 defensive team in the league. This year,
we brought it up
mid-tier.
Since bringing up basketball for the last couple of days, but I can see, whether it's Adam Silver or it is a players' league now.
Yes.
So if the players, they obviously can't even keep track of players, with the gun gestures or, the players taking days off, and it's, they're going to shorten the quarters, and it's just like they're adapting the league that's been so successful for so long.
Right.
And now it's just turning into whatever you guys want, whatever you guys need.
Because they feel like the stars are what drove the fans there, which is true, obviously. But I'm going to bring up a point, though, that's, I think, a deeper issue when it comes to the Nuggets, especially with playoff time coming around the corner. You heard you heard Mike Malone actually say it first. He called out the team and even said, if anybody disagrees with me, speak up and say it now. Nobody did. No one said a word. Silence speaks volumes. And in this situation, it is pivotal because Candace Parker put up a great point yesterday after Shaquille O'Neal presented his. So let's hear from her real quick, and then I will expand on mine.
Second one, right?
Yes, number 2.
But you said something that jumps out. A locker room that's yelling loud, full of passion, that's a locker room that wants to fix things. He said nobody said anything. So to me, a quiet locker room where nobody wants to say anything, that's the scary part. And when you have a team that does not want to step up, take accountability. Jokic had a 60-point triple-double. I think, what else could this man possibly do? And so I just think that it's at a point, and I love Coach Michael Malone, but at the same time, if you're an organization, I think it's the why wait philosophy now.
The fact that no one stood up, do they even want to win right now? Now, granted, again, they're missing Jamal Murray, who hopefully will be back by the playoffs. He is easily their second best player and most clutch player when it matters. When it comes down to it, and they've lost a lot of close games, Jamal's the one with the ball. It's not Jokic. Jokic isn't the guy taking the final shot. He'll get you there, but the final shot has always been Jamal Murray. So the bigger issue that I'm going to present to you, Sparky, and see what you feel about this. Does Denver even want to go that far? Like, is there even a will to win? Because it seems to me like this team literally is just done. They've given up on the season. They fired their head coach and their GM already. The locker room can't even speak up for themselves. Like, where is the fire? Where's the draw for the championship that we saw just a few years ago from the Denver Nuggets?
I can totally see. I mean, it's the opposite of the NFL. When a coach is fired, and usually the interim coach will bring that fire that first week, and they usually, if you look at the percentages, usually an interim coach usually pulls out a win the following week. But as of, like you were saying, they just dropped a spot, and
You could potentially drop into the play-in.
And I'm looking at the standings. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams right in the middle of that pack are within one game. So, I mean, we're going to see a lot before Sunday's, the regular season ends. And I could totally see them continuing to drop, which we'll keep an eye on for the next few days. But, I mean, it just is a bad look.
It is. And,
that's something you usually do mid-season, or
end
you
of
wait
the
until
year.
the season ends.
Yeah, when
so
you have a bad
something
year.
must have hit that panic button and just say, we're done with this.
Honestly, I think you're onto something there, but your comment about what usually happens with interim head coaches, I feel like that happens more in football and baseball than it does in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
But again, take Memphis, for example, which we'll get to Ja Morant, his idiocracy here in a second as soon as we go to break. But
and Luka.
Yeah, that was soft. I'm sorry. That again, Luka brought it upon himself, and I'll explain that in the next break or in the next segment. But I don't see that happen. I don't see the interim head coach coming in and making a splash in Denver. I don't see it because, again, it seems to me that the team is defeated. Nobody wants to win for Denver, and that might be a bad look for Denver as a whole, as an organization, because you want to keep your players happy and you want to keep your players there if you want to compete for a championship.
Which is David Adelman, Rick's son,
who's a fantastic coach and great strategist when it comes to being a basketball coach. But you need to now rally. You need a motivator. And I just don't see Dave being that guy. Not that he can't be that guy if he had a whole season, but with 4 games
what
left.
Kind of job is that? Here's 4 games. And
here's 3-4 games.
Let's
and you're
win some playoff games.
Hopefully get us through the playoffs. Yeah, no, I don't. Now, you know what I said about the Thunder? Shoot, the Denver Nuggets might be the next team to be bounced in the first round for all we know, because there are so many teams in the West right now that are absolute madness. Memphis, Denver. Now we got to figure out what's going on with Oklahoma City, who had a fantastic win last night, but they needed Luka to be ejected in order for it to happen. I mean, good Lord. But let's go pay some bills real quick, Sparky, and then we'll jump into that on the other side of the break, because Luka and Ja Morant are turning heads in the NBA because of just weird decisions.
Yeah, and the big return tonight with Luka traveling to Dallas.
Yep.
Right here, the early bird special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. I had to wait for the drop. Sorry. Still one of the best songs. You're welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Before we went to break, Sparky already teased it a little bit. The Lakers headed out back to Oklahoma City, take on the Thunder for the second time in about a week. This time, the game was dangerously close in the fourth quarter, which led to arguably one of the softest ejections I've seen in the NBA in quite some time. And I don't know, have you seen how polarizing this is, though? It seems that it's going both ways, but more skewed towards people are not happy with the ref for the call.
I mean, I didn't get to watch the game. I saw that he had the second tech. That's why he was.
That's why he was ejected. Now, mind you, yeah, two technical fouls in any game will get you an ejection, and that was the point I was going to get to next.
But I did see the play, and he had dribbled down and did his little spin move, and then he got a lucky bounce, and then he was walking back or
Which
jogging
can we even
back.
call it a lucky bounce anymore? Watching this guy play basketball. This guy's nuts, man. I mean, he plays at his own pace.
I shouldn't put it as a lucky after just watching NCAA for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it makes you feel that way because
But jogging back to mid-court, and I really couldn't see. I mean, there was a lot of fans booing him. So,
well, I don't know which fan they were pointing at. But somebody was jawing at Luka, most likely all game. And this is the point I was going to get to. When you're a fan on the sideline, you have all the right in the world to talk, but you as an athlete on the court, I feel bad for you because there's really nothing you can do to talk back because this is just going to happen to you. Now, something was said between Luka and the fan.
I saw the fan waving at him after he got ejected.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that was even the fan that they were pointing at. There was a whole
they got a kick out of it.
And Oklahoma City rides for their basketball team, man. I'm going to tell you right now, I've been to Oklahoma City one time, been outside the Thunder's stadium. It is a fantastic stadium. It's really cool to look at. And there is a community that ride or dies for their team, and that is Oklahoma. It is nuts.
That was why I was hoping the Sonics would come back. But
yeah, true.
That's a whole different conversation. But they were up by 2 with 7:40 left when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Luka gets ejected because, again, the referee thought he was making those comments to him, apparently, is what he said. That's ridiculous.
And then the Thunder finished the game, going 29-12, a quick run, and, a 17-0 run will do that 29-12 to rout out the Lakers, which they needed that win.
Yes, they did.
But it also turns into a bigger game tonight.
Yep.
As Luka goes back to Dallas, and I mean, it's not a big jump, but like we had said, the middle of that pack of the West is going to come back into this week in these final 3 or 4 games.
It's 3 to 9, right? Are the 6 teams that are within a game of each other? That'd be the Lakers all the way down to the Memphis Grizzlies. No, Grizzlies are now 6.
So Cleveland, Boston, and the Knicks
are leading the East, right?
Are leading the East. But then when you go into the West, yeah, it is the Lakers at 48.
Right.
And then it goes down to Golden State 47, Clippers 47, Denver 47, and then Memphis at 47. Then they drop a game. Timberwolves are at 46. So that's the middle of the pack. So 3 all the way down to 8.
That is
all within one game.
This happened last year too. The West is just, I don't want to say it's far more competitive, but they definitely have more competitive teams than the East does. Because when you look at the Eastern Conference, the 9, 10, and I think even the 8 seed are all losing records. Not to highlight your Bulls there, Spark, but 43 losses.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami, I think, has 42.
And they play tonight.
They do. And again,
they're going to end up playing each other, it looks like.
This is going to be a wild ending to the Western Conference seedings because the fact that Denver or Golden State could drop down to the play-in tournament, and Golden State is arguably the 2nd or 3rd hottest team in the NBA right now, is absolutely wild to me. It's a wild concept. But again, there's so much to look forward to in tonight's game against the Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks. Let's listen to Jason Kidd on the emotions of having Luka come back to Dallas for the first time.
It is emotional. I think anytime anybody's traded, And so coming back for the first time or even the second time or the third time, because of the memories of being able to get to the Western Conference finals, to be able to get to the finals, to be an all-star, the things that he has done in a short amount of time is incredible. So I don't think it's just this one time that it'll be emotional. I think it's going to be emotional for years to come. And so, and I think that's safe to say, and it's fair that the fans here have a right to cheer for him.
There have been teams. I mean, Memphis has had the number 2 seed at one point in the West, just to blurt that out. But Dallas, to me, is one of those teams that looked like they were brewing for some sort of a run when Luka was still there. Then we got the trade that absolutely thunderclapped the entire sports world. I mean, well, dude, that was probably the biggest trade.
Yeah, it was.
Like I had seen in years.
Yeah, I was shocked.
And to see Luka come back to Dallas, you love to see it. I know the fan base is going to be crying because they miss this man so much. He misses them too. You could see it on in his face. Not that he doesn't enjoy playing for the Lakers, but I do think he had no intention of leaving Dallas.
No,
none. He wanted to be there his entire career.
Which, going on the other side, I'm a big Anthony Davis fan. I wasn't a fan when he went to the Lakers. I just like players like that. I like the old school where a player stays with his original team and
in longevity, right?
Whether they're good or bad. I'm a Dolphins fan, so
which Damian Lillard would have done that with the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, but they didn't want to pay him. But I'm going to flip to the other side because now Anthony Davis gets to play against the Lakers and maybe be that villain, hopefully for Dallas, to actually make them be happy that they got Davis. And Anthony Davis, like I said, he's been flip-flopped around the league a few times. And so he has, the experience of being traded and playing against his old team.
Just play basketball. They've never, probably experienced anything, like this. I've been traded before. So going back to New Orleans and all that, it was, I've been through it. So I kind of know what to expect and kind of know how to funnel those emotions and just play basketball. But that's what makes the game fun. That's what makes basketball and sports fun, entertaining, having games like tomorrow. So in the regular season. So it's going to be fun. I'll do my job as best I can to kind of keep the guys together and not getting too high, not getting too low, but focusing on the game.
Now, I think he needs a 30 burger at least to win this game. And honestly, this could be a great statement game for Dallas if they could pull off something, especially since they're at the bottom of this play-in situation. But Lakers need this win more than anybody, especially after the loss last night to the Thunder. And to keep pace of staying out of that massive clump of teams trying to stay out of the play-in, you need this win more than anything. So I expect to see LeBron and Luka come out firing, and Austin Reeves for that matter. But I don't know. What say you, my friend?
I mean, there's some good games. I think the Lakers need the win, but I also, with everything going on, it would be nice for, Dallas to pull it out. I mean, they're pretty much locked in that 10 or 9 in the play-in.
Yeah, more than likely. I don't see them moving out of that spot.
So it looks like they're going to be playing the Kings in the play-in.
Been red hot as well.
And that's going to be a tough series. So, I mean, it's all about timing.
Yep. As Shaq said, you go up in highs and lows in the season. And he said before that clip, too, that I wanted to pull, but it just didn't really make sense. You don't need to have a smooth season to win a championship.
You just got to get hot.
You don't. And I forget that, sometimes I am a person, much like a lot of you, I'm a victim of recency bias. Everybody loves to sit there and say this is the best team of all time because it's something we're watching right now. But he did bring up that, hey, man, the Lakers had their ups and downs in their dynasty. Him and Miami, they sucked at points when they won the championship. So realistically, a lot of these teams could still be in it as long as they somewhat rally around each other. And
I mean, going back off that topic, Golden State beat the living hell out of the Suns last night. And I don't know. I mean, it's playing the Suns. So
the Suns right now are a defeated team as well. But that was going to be my point.
But those are the type of games that you can, lean on.
Right. And that was my point about the Laker Thunder game the other day. It starts now. These games matter more than any other regular season game. Why? It's the last week headed into the playoffs. And if you watch sports, momentum is everything in every facet of it. So they need these wins, at least the Lakers do, to keep the momentum going. I think the Thunder need them too, obviously, to keep their dominance and their momentum going as well. So
there's some good games other than the Lakers game, which I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about tomorrow. But Denver's got Sacramento tonight. The Rockets play the Clippers. My Bulls are at home against the Heat. Knicks and Detroit, and Cleveland and the Pacers. So which all 6 games should be good.
I'm hoping we have Donovan Mitchell back tonight, because I swear if I have to listen to McAfee talk about how the Pacers beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, I already have to listen to Boston Connor. I'm just, ugh.
Oh, gosh.
Don't get me started. Anyways, but yeah, the playoffs are heating up. But I want to talk about one last thing before we go to break, since we teased it already. And we talked about this last week, Sparky. But Ja Morant is at it again.
This kid, dude.
The Memphis Grizzlies.
He needs a timeout.
He does.
He needs a timeout.
And, well, I'm sorry. In speaking as I'm backing the league, because in certain situations I am, especially in this one, this is just becoming ridiculous, because now you got commentators joking about it.
Yeah, I heard Shaq and Barkley being bang, bang, and he's dropping it, and he's got to whip out that, and then they leave it.
And
I mean, it's all a joke now.
Are we really going to make a joke out of the league? Because I think that's why they're doing it, is because there's no teeth to it. You only fined him $75,000. You really think that's a big deal to Ja Morant?
He laughed at it and did it the next game.
He tweeted about it. Like, guys,
he's gonna be like Orton and pay up for the next one.
Well, it's much like baseball gets a lot of grief for having teeth in certain areas, but no teeth in others. Basketball is really starting to become that too, because again, like we said earlier, it's becoming a stars league, and because of that, you have to back your stars more than you back the, I guess, officials is the best way to put it.
I'm talking to like even Greg Kerr and his son. They're big basketball fans, and I caught part of their show yesterday, and they're saying the same thing. It's a players' league.
Yeah, and again, normally I wouldn't care. I really wouldn't. I have no issue with the gun salute or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really not that big of a deal. No. He's not actually pulling out a Glock, so who cares?
It's just pulling.
Yeah,
things
it's
to be
more
putting the teeth in.
It's exactly. It's more of the now you're acting as if you're an entitled kid who's bigger than the league. This league made you. Let's not forget that. Like, let's also
what
not
would
forget
be funny is if he pulls a CD Lamb instead,
right?
And do the whole snort thing. So okay.
Well, I mean, and
I'm
you can
now.
technically, but you also, again, like I said, take into account your background and what you've done.
100%.
Like, you can't sit there and say that, oh, I shouldn't be judged on this. I'm sorry, man. Like, I don't know how to explain that to people. You're gonna get judged for it.
And that's how people that aren't heavy NBA fans, that's what they remember him from.
And do you really want to be do you really want to be known as the gang member? Because it's not gangsta. It's not what you like. It's not like we're talking about Al Capone. You're not a gangsta. You're a gang member to these people.
Yeah, you're
and I don't want that to be Ja's legacy. I love Ja Morant. I think he's one of the best players in the NBA and probably one of the best point guards we've ever seen.
Well, his talent is getting shadowed, definitely.
Exactly, by all of this. And it's like in Ndamukong Suh. I hate when great players get such a bad rap and it kills all of their legacy and how good they were to people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
What do you think of when you see Mason Rudolph?
The helmet getting hit.
Yeah, and what do you think about Sue? I know watching when he was with the Dolphins. Oh, that guy's dirty. What, you've watched 2 games and you think he's dirty?
People forget Ndamukong Suh was a finalist for the Heisman.
He's a stud.
Do you remember that when Tyrann Mathieu, when they actually put defensive players in that conversation?
Yep.
Dude, this guy was otherworldly, and all people remember now is he's a dirty player, just like Harrington for the Steelers. Do we not remember how James was on the field? This guy was a monster. He was fantastic.
So what do you think John needs to do to get out of that shadow?
Honestly, just show some maturity.
Shut up and play?
Not necessarily that. Still speak up for yourself. Don't get me wrong. Because again, the fine and all that stuff and being treated that way is dumb. You shouldn't be treated that way, especially that way. Or especially the way that they've really envisioned you as the gang member. That's not who you are. But show them that's not who you are.
Yeah. Shut up, Shaq and Barkley and Kenny and all them. And
tell them like, hey, that was funny, but let's not make that joke. Like, I'm still trying to deal with this. Like, show maturity in it. I know a lot of people, especially these days, show maturity but still have the humor. You can do that now. So just don't take it too seriously. Don't play the victim like you've been doing on Twitter. Jaw this, jaw that. Stop. That doesn't help your case either. You're looking like a entitled child, and that's not. I don't know the man personally, but that's not what I would like for your legacy to be in the long run. Because I would like to see the Ja Morant that we have seen in Memphis in the first couple years, arguably the most explosive point guard since Derrick Rose.
And I'd like to see him, light it up with Pippen. I'm really growing on Pippen.
So I'm not sitting here criticizing or critiquing Ja. I'm more saying, brother, like, I'm more trying to look out for you. Like, let's try to change the way the world looks at you. And the first step to doing that is just showing some maturity.
100%.
So let's brace some bills, Spark, and we'll come back on the other side, give you guys an update on some things in the NBA and the NFL as well, because we've been neglecting them for the last couple days. You've been listening to the Early Bird Special right here on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, and streaming live on ESPNBakersfield.com and on YouTube on the Early Bird Special. We'll be right back.
Yeah, this song starts up. We're not ever gonna get stuff.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We got to go. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris. That's Sparky. We don't have enough time to get into all the NFL stuff we got for you guys.
Oh,
this
you'll be a
week.
GM in the
So,
next hour.
yeah, we're going to have to jump into that next hour. However, we have a handful of NCAA basketball declares for the NBA draft. I'll start with mine. Jace Richardson, son of former NBA star Jason Richardson, has declared for the NBA draft. He was a freshman at the Michigan State, where he played 15 of 32 games. Or, I'm sorry, he started 15 of 32 games, averaged about 12 and a half. So this is a good pickup for whomever, and I'm hoping he's got the bounce of his dad, because Jason could jump.
And the Sox. And Texas freshman Trey Johnson announced yesterday on ESPN's NBA Today that he will also declare for the NBA draft. He is projected to be a top 5 pick by the post NCAA tournaments mock drafts that's been going around. He was a SEC freshman of the year, all averaging 19.9 points a game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. But he helped Texas make the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
With the Longhorns be eliminated by Xavier in the first 4. But at 6'6" with the 6'10" wingspan, Johnson is a prototype for what a lot of NBA teams will be seeking. So,
oh yeah, and Richardson is also a projected lottery pick. I doubt he goes in the top 10, but he'll be a fantastic guard for whoever picks him up in the late first round, I would assume. We're still waiting on the official announcement of Cooper Flagg and guys like Walton Clayton and Alex Condon. Most likely will come in the next couple weeks, I would assume. The NBA draft is scheduled for June 25th and 26th. As we said, the lottery will be next month in May, and we will find out who will be the lucky team to most likely grab either
Utah.
Cooper Flagg, I would assume Utah, or I'm drawing a blank, Harper from Rutgers, as I believe the projected number 2 overall pick in this year's draft.
Yeah, the last mock draft I looked at had the Rutgers guys at 2 and 3.
Right.
Back to back. But over to Memphis, the Grizzlies starting guard Jalen Wells.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to talk about this.
Broke his right wrist on a hard fall.
Do you think that was a dirty play? Be honest. Now, let's actually set this up before we get into that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't even get into that right away. Last night in the Memphis Grizzlies game against, I believe, who was it? The Warriors? No,
it was Charlotte.
Charlotte. That's right. It was the Hornets. There was a play that involved this man that he went up for a dunk and just absolutely got the legs cut out from underneath him. It's really hard to tell if it was a dirty move or not, because to me, at least, it did look like he was trying to get out of the way rather than which
as a wrestling fan, moving the wrong way
can really
in a fast break like that will cause injuries.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I feel like happened. But around the internet, there is a lot of push that says this was a very dirty play. I just don't know. I don't think
they did call the flagrant on it.
Yeah. He got a flagrant 2 and was immediately ejected.
That was KJ Simpson.
I don't know if you can bang plays like that, especially when you go up for dunks and high rebounds. It's hard to miss each other. And I don't know. I just don't think Simpson should have gotten a flagrant 2 for this. Flagrant 1, maybe, but I don't think it was intentional.
No, I mean, looking at it, those fast-paced plays, it's kind of hard to say unless there is intent.
Yeah.
And it goes right back to football because we're football guys. But the intent, it didn't look like it was there.
No.
But the positive, the news that came out this morning, he does have movement to all of extremities. And I heard a clip this morning driving in. The rookie's father, Fred Wells, told the media that his son was alert enough to ask what the score was. And that's an athlete right there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, it looks like his season's probably over, but we wish all the best. And hopefully, he can.
Well, I mean, again,
hopefully he doesn't need to have immediate surgery or anything, but hopefully everything wells out. And
as long as there's no long-term damage, I just hope that, again, this doesn't lead to any strikes against Simpson. I don't think it was an intentional move, but again, around the internet right now, the growing popular opinion is that it was, and that he will most likely be reprimanded at some point because it was a flagrant 2. One more quick little mention as well for you South Carolina Gamecock fans, especially on the women's side. You found yourself a new starting guard and most likely top scorer. Tiana Latson is joining her longtime high school teammate of Raven Johnson at South Carolina as she transfers from Florida State. to most likely take over the spot of Pow Pow, the leading scorer, and I believe she was the point guard on the team.
Pow pow.
And at this point, it just looks like the Gamecocks have reloaded and are headed right back to the championship game to potentially win 2 national championships in 3 years. So, I mean, the loss to UConn is probably not hurting as much anymore with this, with this
The
news.
future is there. Well, it is Wild Thing Wednesday.
Yes, and we got to take a quick break so we can get to that, right?
Yes, sir. And text or call in anytime, 661-842-2000. And, throw out some NBA predictions. Who you got in the NBA Finals this year? Who's going to take it? We'll talk this and much more right after this break. The Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. And welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. You can also watch us live as we video stream the show every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. on our YouTube channel, the Early Bird Special. Just look for the little icon there with the bird and the worm. The bird, you'll see it'll be wrapped in red, said live on it when we're playing. And then you can actually go back and watch all of our episodes as well on the YouTube channel, as well as some videos that we've done in the past.
Yeah, if you hadn't caught the video from yesterday with KG,
Fantastic.
that's a good laugh. I I had to catch it from 3 or 4 different listeners of ours that watch wrestling, and I didn't hear nothing but Randy Orton bash to me all day yesterday.
Oh, when
and
you
I still
speak
stand
blasphemy,
with it.
my
I
friend.
still stand with it. But yes, it is a Wild Thing Wednesday. Last week was a tough one just for me because the dogs.
Yes.
And this one's not going to hit any. It's a sad story.
We decided not to play the drop today because it is a sad story. It is a passing, and we didn't want this to come off as if we were joking about it whatsoever. This is a very tragic story, so you'll hear the drop again next week most likely. But this dropped yesterday for you Dodger fans. The passing of MLB pitcher Octavio Dotel, as well as multiple others, including the former Nationals player Tony Blanco and the sister of MLB All-Star Nelson Cruz, all passed away on Monday in a tragic situation at a concert where a roof collapsed in a called the Jet Set Club in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. Everybody was there for a concert for a merengue singer, a Ruby Perez, from what I understand. And unfortunately, that Dotel, Blanco, and Cruz all passed away, along with 56 other people, and 160 others have been injured in this entire situation, as well as a very, very grave situation. They are still searching the wreckage as well for any others that are potentially passed away or been injured in this situation. We hope that everybody gets healed up quickly. If you did survive this, it's just a freak accident that happened in the Dominican Republic. But unfortunately, we lost I guess you can call him a legend, because this man played for 13 teams in the MLB in his time. Actually held the record for most teams played for up until, I believe it was 2022, when 2019, I apologize, when Edwin Jackson broke that record with 14, the pitcher. Octavio was a mainstay on a lot of people's rotations, including the 2011 St. Louis Cardinals championship team. His 1 year with the team, actually, which I thought was funny. But he is going to be missed, along with Blanco, who was 43. He also played for the Nationals, the inaugural Nationals team. Didn't really make a big splash in the MLB, but had a long career in Japan, where he was an all-star and won some awards over there as well. And unfortunately, Nelson Cruz, the governor of the Northern Dominican province of Monte Cristi and sister of 7-time all-star Nelson Cruz, was also part of this situation. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of everybody affected by this. This is a very, very serious situation. When this came across, I had immediately sent it to Sparky and said, well, as much as we don't want this to be a downer of a segment, it's just, this was too wild of a story to just ignore. So we felt that's
a lot of people, man.
It is. And it's just, again, it was a concert. It was a absolute just freak accident. I believe the singer as well was hurt during this situation, so they're dealing with that. I don't believe they passed away.
Yeah, I said it was 113 people that passed, and then another
it's up to 113 now.
No, now it's at least 255 were also injured.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sorry. The statistics that I had were from yesterday morning, so
yeah,
this is obviously
that just
updated.
Came across the top, and it reminds me of, for the older listeners, but the old the Who concert disaster out in Cincinnati, where the doors opened and everybody rushed the stage, and nobody could get out. It's just the concert etiquette, but when the venue isn't prepared to do this big of a show, I mean, we're talking over 400 people, whether had passed or were injured, but it is Wild Thing. So I'd like to switch it up into some positive.
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit of a different story to up the mood here a little bit and get us back on track.
I'm going to play this clip, and I'm going to let Burdick break it down.
Oh, Lord.
Who's got his own fan club in the upper deck.
The hooligans, that's who they are. I get it.
It's not the Jung Hoo crew like we see on the weekends here, but they got their own thing going. Above third base in the view level. And now the whole ballpark, along with the hooligans.
The hooligans, yes, the Jung Ho hooligans of
when you
San
said that,
Francisco.
I thought it was a joke.
No, this is real. This is actually real. So there is a very popular baseball player in San Francisco, Jung Ho Lee. I'm sorry, I forgot the last name. But he is, I believe, an outfielder for the Giants and has been one of the hottest hitters in all of baseball to start the season. He has his own fan club now where they all wear essentially, for you anime fans, they have Super Saiyan wigs. And it's just the color is swapped. It's actually an orange base with yellow gold tips rather than the yellow base with the orange tips. But it's a fantastic thing to see. They're all out in the same section. It is a old school fan base, an old school just fan club that love to go to the games in San Francisco and cheer this guy on. And I love to see this kind of a thing.
I know you're an anime guy, so I was
Yes.
just going to ask. I mean, is that something
It's making
new that's
waves, man.
making
It's
waves?
making waves. For those of
Exactly.
you who are watching the video stream, I am wearing an anime shirt as we speak, but
You
I
show
am a
the-
weeb
show
to
the
a point.
tattoo.
Yeah, multiple tattoos. I can't go
Okay.
down the line. But at this point, it is just really good to see. I love to see baseball have this type of an effect on people and just pull people together and create wholesome fan bases. This is what we need more of. We have way too many of the crazy fanatics who want to fight at games. We need to go back to a family-friendly, wholesome fan base style fan so we can all just get back to some normalcy and enjoy the games that we all love. So I love to see this. Go out there in every single game. I hope to see the hooligans just going crazy for their boy
Yeah,
because
roll
that is just
deep.
fantastic.
The hooligans.
The hooligans, baby. Man, if I ever make it out to a Giants game, highly unlikely, but if I ever do, I'll find them. I'll put on a wig for you. I'll gladly go do that. But that is where we are right now on Wild Thing Wednesday. We got to get to a break and pay some bills. We'll be back on the other side with our NFL update. And I guess we'll play a little GM as well.
Burdick's
right?
going to be the GM. I'm going to bounce off some trades. And then I also, for our collectors, I want to get into a story that we didn't get to last week.
Yes.
About these crooks trying to, get rid of fake signed memorabilia and kind of walk on fans that don't have the money to just be throwing away with fakes.
Absolutely.
Early bird special right after this break.
And welcome back to the Early Bird Special Hour 2 on this Wild Thing Wednesday. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Spark, we got plenty of NFL to talk about. We've been talking NBA all morning. So let's get to a little bit of this. I know you want to play a little GM, right?
Yes. We'll do that. We'll talk the Brock Purdy contract,
Right.
which has been going through the headlines, and we'll talk a lot more. Also, I've got some while we're listening to Korn, I figured I'd throw out there's a 3-part documentary series about the band Korn that was announced this morning that will be called Korn, and it'll be a 3-part series coming up to Netflix sometime next year. So
Are we going to get Corn with a C though?
No,
it's not going to be named
No.
Corn.
Did you hear
should
did you
name it
watch that
Caramel
video?
Corn.
How that came to
How they actually came to be? Yeah, because they
Came
were
to Korn?
originally named Elote, weren't they?
Well, they were going to call, a couple members of the band were in a band called Sex Art that was here in town
Right.
that John sang for, and the bass player from Edema. And then the rest of the band was in a band called LAPD down in LA. But they made a joke because when they were formed, after they won the Battle of the Bands here in town, they were formed to, if you've been in a band, you think you're good until you get into the recording studio and actually hear what you sound like.
Right.
So that's what happened. They won the first record deal, and when they were recording, they found John's like, "Oh, this is what we sound like." So they formed Korn, and they were looking for a band name. They told their manager at the time that they were going to call the band Larry,
Oh my God.
and he said, "No, you're not."
That's
and he
awesome.
said, "Then we'll call it Korn." And they said, "Well, we need a logo." And John grabbed a crown and wrote with his left hand instead of his right, scribbled the name Korn, and they made stickers and put it all over from Sacramento to LA, and that's how they were formed.
Where did the Elote story come from then?
I have
Because
never heard that one.
Really? Because I've heard that one more than one you just told me, that they were originally going to be named Elote, and then they just said, no, we're going to go with Corn instead, but with a K.
And Fildy was actually a telemarketer.
Huh.
And so he started calling all these venues and saying, "Hey, book them. And that's where they said, we need a logo.
Yeah, you
And
need
that's
something.
that's where it came from. But
That makes sense. Okay,
so as a GM, Mr. Burdick,
cool. Sure.
so I've got a couple of these that we'll sprinkle in the next couple of weeks. But recently, the New York Jets have been, the Jets,
Of
but
course.
bringing in Aaron Glenn. There's so many damn Aarons. I almost played the Ralph Bailey show. Aaron
Rodgers,
Gutowski, Aaron
Taylor Johnson.
Yes. So with the new coach, and they've also been rumored to be in the Ashton Genty
Race.
sweepstakes. So they might draft him if the Raiders don't.
Oh, Lord.
But I'm going to bounce off 4 trade packages that Jets GMs couldn't refuse for Breece Hall. The first one, and this is all from Bleacher Report, but the Jets trading Breece Hall to the Bears, and the Bears sending DeAndre Swift and a 3rd-round pick. So that's the first offer. The second offer is the Browns receiving Breece Hall and sending over a 3rd-round pick and a 6th-round pick, which that 3rd-round pick would be the 67th overall. And then Dallas trading for Breece Hall, they would give up a 3rd round and a 6th round as well. But that 3rd round is 76 overall. And then finally, which one is kind of a reach, but the Commanders picking up Breece Hall in trade of a 4th round and wide receiver Luke McCaffrey. So what say you? Yes. No, that would be a 4th round.
A 4th round. I'm sorry.
So a 4th round and Luke McCaffrey from Washington, a 3rd and a 6th from Dallas, a 3rd and a 6th from Cleveland, and a
Swift in the 3rd from
and
the
a
Bears.
Swift. Yeah.
Oh God. If I had to pick any of those, I would probably take the Bears deal, because obviously you get a running back who has a past with splitting carries and is honestly a struggle to get in the end zone.
Yes.
And Genty is the exact opposite of that. He's a big powerhouse that would love to run people over. So I think you could have a great 1-2 tandem there. However, we're talking about the Jets, so they'll find some way to mess this up. And not to mention, you're looking at a higher draft pick than what the Commanders would be giving you. Luke McCaffrey is only nice in name because of who his brother is. He has yet to actually show anything in the NFL himself. And I just think it's a better move than just getting 2 draft picks for this guy. I doubt they actually move on from him, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been scratching my head because I think Breece Hall is the number one running back, but I know they've talked a lot about Braden Allen and Isaiah Davis.
Yeah, but again, I
But,
get wanting to have a running back by committee because that's how the league is now, but Breece Hall is going to be getting 30 out of the 50 carries.
And he's also has had injury issues. And, with a new coach, like we've talked about, new coaches like to come in and mix it up and put their name tag on it.
Yeah, but that only traditionally spreads to the quarterback, though, wouldn't you think?
Usually.
Because usually they like to keep the skill players, at least that have a lot of potential, which Breece Hall has all the potential in the world, even if he has injury history.
And Breece Hall did come out and say, he wants to be a number one back.
Right.
Of course, he's competitive and probably is not wanting to look at him and think, okay, well, he's going to be splitting carries, which every team usually has a core that they split carries with.
Yeah, but the Jets drafting Genty is such a Jets thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, you
I think they
need
do.
so many other things, but you really want to go after a running back?
Yeah, when you have all these different holes. But I think if they do end up getting him, then I think Breece is probably on his way out.
I could see it. I just, again, it would shock me if they drafted a running back in the first round. Now, if they picked one up in the second, third, fourth, like maybe that guy from USC or even Scatterbro, or I could totally see that, but they'd be backing up Breece. I just don't see them putting a first round draft pick into a running back right now when you need so many more things.
But I mean, is Genty one of those running backs that if he's there, you would kick yourself if you pass on him?
This kid is a fantastic talent, and everybody keeps comparing him to Dickerson and saying he's going to, I saw this morning on the Get Up that they're predicting that he breaks the rushing record for rookies. I like him, but let's calm down.
Slow it down.
Let's relax. This isn't Adrian Peterson coming out of college. Like, all we saw was this kid play at Boise. And let's be honest, the games that he played against big teams wasn't exactly a superstar. He was sustainable and absolutely got your yards for you. But what did Boise do in terms of big name games? They didn't. And
they crapped the bed.
He may not be a quarterback, but he sure as heck is the mainstay of that offense, and he didn't help. So let's calm down on him being this amazing superstar out of the gate. I think it's going to take a couple years. And honestly, that's if he doesn't end up having injury history, because we don't know what these guys' careers are going to look like.
So if you're the Jets GM, you would take that trade from
the Bears.
Chicago?
If I had to take any pick and they were planning on taking Genty, I would absolutely send Breece to the Bears.
Well, before we get into more NFL talk, there was a clip that I pulled yesterday from Schefter on, it is a week and a half, 2 weeks away from the draft.
Yeah.
I think we're 2 weeks as of tomorrow. And he had this to say about teams trading.
We haven't seen this much inactivity of first-round draft picks in 32 years. And I think that that's a function of the quarterbacks in this draft and teams not desiring to trade up to get them right now. That could certainly change on draft night and draft weekend. I'm sure the Browns and Giants would have interest in going up to 1. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen, barring some huge can't turn down offer from one of those teams to the Titans. And right now it's tracking for the Titans to stay right at 1.
Which I agree with. It looks like the Titans they know what they're doing with their first pick. But I think as the draft goes along,
we'll
the first couple picks after that.
Yeah, more people will be trading out.
Whether that's Shador, whether we talked yesterday or the day before about, the Dolphins all of a sudden are linked to Shador. And I think more of them trading out so a team can go in and pick Shador.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think this draft, more than likely, it's going to kind of go with the domino.
Mm-hmm.
Whether, where 1, 2, and 3 go is when other teams will start getting more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
But to move over to the 49ers, the Brock Purdy contract has been starting to heat up. There's been really no talk. after, which I wasn't surprised, but the Debo trade. And then I've heard more rumors about them shopping
Ayuk
players
and a
like
lot of other
Ayuk.
players, yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Is it important for Frisco to lock in Purdy this offseason?
Not necessarily, because obviously you have the ability to tag him. I don't think you do tag him, though. I think you have to establish some sort of longevity with this deal, especially since he's been the face of the team for the last couple of years. But the way a lot of these things are going and the way this team is going, if you're a 49er fan, you are going to need draft picks more than anything. So, because we're talking about teams trading out of the first round and whatnot. I expect the 49ers to definitely trade for more picks because they need more roster spots. They need more bodies. And if you're a Niner fan, that's one of the things that you guys do very, very well. The Niners draft and develop young players very, very well. Obviously, seeing Mr. Irrelevant come and become arguably one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. But at this point right now, if you're the 49ers, you need to think longevity. You need to think, how are you going to build this team for the future? And is Brock Purdy going to be the guy you build around? Or are you going to move on from Brock when all of this inevitably comes to a head and you have to get rid of guys like Christian McCaffrey and all that because maybe they aren't worth the money anymore, or maybe they're not the team or the pieces of the team that you need anymore? Maybe they make a move for Breece Hall if they end up needing a running back or not trusting that Christian could be healthy long-term. All these questions pop up when you're talking about the 49ers. So I don't necessarily think they need to nail him down right now. I think you have a lot of other problems that you should deal with, especially since he's still under contract, but there is always the possibility of the franchise tag.
This is Schefter talking just about that.
Brock Purdy's under contract this year for $5.1 million. And then next year, the 49ers can tag him for $41 million. And then the year after, they can tag him again for $51 million. So if my math is correct, the 49ers technically control Brock Purdy's rights for the next 3 years and $97.1 million, roughly. 397.1. If you're the 49ers, why are you going to go pay Brock Purdy some crazy number when you control his rights like that?
$5 million. That's why.
Yeah. But again, I argue as well, you wait too late and that price is going up.
Oh, yeah, it's going to go up.
Like, everybody always pays the gamble or tries the gamble of, what if he gets hurt or that type of thing? You don't have to pay for him as much next year. It does not work that way anymore. It's more than likely going to be other quarterbacks are going to the barrier again and again and again. And then when you do inevitably franchise tag them, because let's not forget how franchise tags work, you have to pay them the average salary of the equivalent of everybody's salary. So that's still going to be a lot of money. And you're going to have to deal with a lot of these guys getting $40-50 million in the next 3 to 4 years that probably don't deserve it. And Brock's going to want that kind of money too. So that's why I think earlier the better, realistically, but they don't need to do it anytime soon.
Yeah, as of this season, which we're talking about, the franchise tag will probably move up next year after these contracts. But as of this season, we're looking at 40 to 42 million for a franchise tag.
Exactly. So you're going to have to pay Brock 40 to 42 million. And that's not this year, but next year. On top of paying all the players to help protect him, to catch the ball for him, unless you believe in Parasol that much, which I'm a pretty avid fan of football. And I know a lot of 49er fans. And no, Ricky is not the guy for you from what everybody keeps telling me. And I just can't believe that you're not going to pay this kid. I mean, he is a household name for you now. The fan base loves him.
I'd love him in Miami.
I'm sure you would. I think a lot of people would. But I think that at this point right now, I don't see him leaving the 49ers. But setting him with a franchise tag and delaying this is only going to shoot you in the foot.
And it's only going to cost more and more. But that's why it's set up perfect. As Canty talks about, maybe it's time for Purdy to start thinking a holdout.
I think the 49ers are going to get buried with this contract. This is going to get bad for them. They've got themselves in a trick box. There's no way out because they've already committed to paying Brock Purdy, which is why they moved on from all of those players this offseason, right? They did all of those things because they knew they had to pay Brock. Well, if you cleared the decks to pay me, then give me what I believe I'm worth. Pay me in line with what all the other young quarterbacks are getting paid in this leagues. Guys, by the way, that have done far less than I have when it comes to playoff success. For Brock Purdy, the floor in terms of average annual value on a new contract would be $58 million. And if the 49ers aren't willing to pay him that kind of money, why should he show up for work?
I don't see Brock Purdy's personality being the type of guy that would hold out like that, but that's the way of the league now.
Yeah,
so
it's part of the
entirely
business.
possible. But again, and Canty brought up beautifully, $58 million is a lot of money.
Ooh.
And this kid has done more than a lot of these young players that are getting buku money right now. But again, I think that this next year for the 49ers is going to be a tell-all year for them in this situation, because they have one year left, as Shefty said, $5 million on that contract. And if you are fleeting players, you're losing Debo, most likely going to lose Ayuk. God only knows what's going to happen with Kittle and McCaffrey. I doubt Kittle goes anywhere, but McCaffrey, if you're not healthy long-term like you were last year, why are they going to keep you? So it's really going to come down to how well he plays with less pieces. Because if he can play well and continue to lead this team to wins, there's no reason not to pay the man the money.
And speaking of McCaffrey, he'll be in town. He's got a youth football camp coming up Friday, June 13th at the BHS campus from 8 to noon.
It's my birthday.
It's open. Oh, right. Open to boys and girls from age 6 to 16. Just go over to flexwork.com and you can get all the information on how to sign up. We have reached out to hopefully get somebody from that camp. I believe that it was the same one that was supposed to be a Debo Samuel camp.
Yes. No, it was originally the Debo Samuel camp. So if you signed up for that camp, it is the same one. I doubt you have to do anything to change your kid over. But because of the move sending Debo to Washington, he's obviously not going to be in the area in the June months. He's going to be most likely in the nation's capital preparing for the season. So they asked Christian to step in instead, and he very much said yes. And most of the time he would. He seems like one of those types of guys that does not mind doing this kind of thing, which also means you might see some other 49ers pop up at this camp too, because I know a lot of these guys run deep with each other. So
yeah, usually they do these camps and they'll bring, 3 or 4 players and they'll do like
see a Kyle Juszczyk or a George Kittle at this camp too. So I would check it out and get your kid in this thing, man. Plus, what better way for your kid to learn how to play football than from a professional?
From CMC.
Best running back in the league when he's healthy.
Yes. Well, we'll wrap up the NFL talk right after this break. The Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Brick. That's Sparky. And Spark, we got a little bit of draft news. It looks like Abdul Carter might be falling, and this entire idea the Cleveland Browns might be pairing together Travis Hunter and Shadur Sanders again in the NFL seems to be taking hold, as it seems like the Browns now seem to be the favorites to take Travis Hunter at number 2, hoping that Shadur Sanders falls all the way to the second round where they can grab him, most likely either at 33 or possibly trade up back into the first round to get him in the late round, I would assume. Maybe trading with, I would think, maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers if they can get a deal done for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Atlanta, if you're looking for more draft picks, I would say ship them out, because I don't know if we're going to find anything in this draft, because from everything that I understand from this draft is outside of the Travis Hunters and your Cam Wards, don't expect a lot of superstars from this draft. This is more of a starter draft, as they call it. You'll find guys that are going to be maybe solid long-term starters for your team, but really nothing to wag your finger at, as it were. But I don't know. What say you, my friend?
As a Dolphin fan, I hope they do. I just don't want him there at 4, because I would hate to see him in a Patriot uniform. But yeah, I believe it's looking like it's going to be Cam Ward, obviously, with the Titans at 1.
I'm pretty sure that's probably a lock. I think every year you can pretty confidently say if one player is talked about with the team, especially at the number 1 pick, it's going to be a lock.
And 2 weeks ago, it was Cleveland taking Carter.
Yep.
And now they're swapping back and forth. So, I mean, I could totally see Travis Hunter. And I also read just a tidbit yesterday that this kid, Travis Hunter, he keeps continuing to talk about what we talked about yesterday, wanting to play both positions, wide receiver and corner. And yesterday he tweeted out that he wants Goodell, when he announces his name, to mention that he is the wide receiver and cornerback. And I'm like, okay, dude, we understand you want to be on the field 24/7. I get it. But I can see, I think after those first 2 picks is when it's going to start getting tricky, whether it's the announcer's going to be talking Shador and Carter. We're like, where are we going to go? Hopefully, I believe the Giants should take Carter if he's there. Best player available.
He's definitely the best edge rusher in this draft. I think he's really the best choice you could make in terms of a for sure talent in this draft. Because again, we don't know where you're going to put Travis Hunter, if he's going to be a great corner or wide receiver. Doubt he plays both. And Cam Ward and Shadur, it's always a question mark with quarterbacks. You never know. It really just depends what team they land on. But I'd be shocked to see Abdul Carter drop out of the top 3. He's just that good.
Hopefully, because if he's at 4, I know the Patriots are jumping on that.
Yep.
And then that would open up, it looks like Mason Graham seems to be the favorite from Michigan to land with Jacksonville at 5. And then the big pick at 6 will be the Raiders. Do they take Ashton, or do they pull the trigger after signing and extending Geno? Do they go Shador?
That's the only reason I'm now considering saying they don't take Shador, is the signing of Geno for 2-3 years for $70 million. But then again, Atlanta's move last year with Kirk Cousins obviously begs the question, does that really matter anymore? You know what I mean? Like does a quarterback signing a contract with these teams really matter? Because we don't know who the starter is, or if the plan for every team now is just to get a veteran that can essentially just lead your guy into a starting job.
And it sets up not only the Shador talk, but it also sets up, Kirk Cousins, and, the Falcons have put it out there, like, we're shopping him.
Well,
so,
they keep saying that, and then they keep saying, well, we're happy with him as our backup. No, you're not.
Both sides. But
that's my one thing with Portnoy. He's honestly starting to annoy me. The GM for Atlanta has not done a very good job at all. In fact, most of the stud players that Atlanta has on this roster were drafted before he even showed up. But at this point, like, this guy keeps saying, oh, we're comfortable with him as a backup. Really now? $150 million guy is your backup.
Do you think it'll be kind of the sit and wait to see how the draft goes, and then teams that didn't hit at quarterback what they wanted, that's when they'll start collecting those calls for Cousins? And we haven't heard anything, which is I'm happy about,
Mhm.
but we haven't heard the name Aaron in about a week.
Right. Well, again, because he is still trying to figure this out. And I know the media is saying that he's holding teams hostage. No, he's not. He's done. You know what I think happened too? And I'll get back to Atlanta in a second, but Aaron, I think, learned a little bit of a lesson from when Jordan was drafted with the Packers. Because when you sign too early and then the team goes and drafts your replacement, he doesn't like that.
Oh, no.
He wants to be the guy for the team while he's there. So he's waiting to see who really does have faith in him and who wants him like that. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if Shedeur Sanders drops to 21 to the Steelers, I'd be hard-pressed to say they don't take him because they need a quarterback. And they will pass on Aaron if that is the need be. And that's really the only suitor at this point. Because from what I understand is the Vikings are out. They're done. They want nothing to do with it. The only team right now that's even in a bidding war for this man is Pittsburgh. So I think he's waiting to see, okay, Pittsburgh, are you legit about wanting me? I wouldn't be surprised if he signs draft day. I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, or the day before, I could see that.
And honestly, in going back to Kirk Cousins here and the movement of him, there's also been word from the camp. They're not asking Kirk for help with Michael Penix. Guess who they're asking?
Oh, that's right.
Matt Ryan.
Yep.
They don't want Kirk's help,
I forgot all about
which
that.
means they definitely don't want him as a backup. So let's stop with that entire, oh, we're okay. Shush, Portnoy. Get him out of here. Trade him for a 3rd or 7th round draft pick at this point. Just get the contract out of here.
I also heard we'll hear from Aaron Rodgers later on that Pat McAfee celebration thing
Oh, that's
tonight,
right. The big night
which
out.
I was going to ask, what is this?
The big night out is I guess it's a giant fan meet and greet that the McAfee show, Pat and his stooges, as he likes to call them, although they are all very, very talented in what they do. I love to hate on a lot of them, but it's just because they're just so talented at this. But it's basically just a giant fan meet and greet where they're going to be doing, just hanging out with the fans and doing everything they can to kind of just connect with people from what I understand. I don't think this is going to be televised at all. I don't think you're going to see it unless it's live streamed somewhere.
It's just going to be streaming on his page.
Yeah, I don't think so. If you want to see this and see what this is all about, I believe it is tonight at about a 5:00 start for Pacific time. I might be wrong on that. Don't quote me, but go to his social media sites, and I'm sure you'll see it most likely on his YouTube page as well. But yeah, that's basically what it is. It's a giant event of sporting love that they're just giant meet and greet live show. And I think they're just going to do their traditional thing and just kind of hang around and talk with the boys and get some guests in there. Cause I know they're also going to be live from the WWE event the weekend of WrestleMania. So there's a lot going on with their show. But outside of that, that's pretty much all I know about what that is.
Well, I would almost put money on that we're going to hear some type of Aaron Rodgers out of that event.
That is the rumor that has been cycling around there. Well, the rumor starts because obviously AJ Hawk, very close friend of Aaron Rodgers, and really the only reason that Aaron Rodgers started coming on the show, in my personal opinion, not that he hates Pat McAfee or anything, but more of just like that's how they got his attention. But AJ has been connected to this entire thing. They joke with him all the time saying that, oh, you know what he's going to do. AJ claims he has no idea what Aaron's going to do. But there has been a rumor cycling on the internet that Aaron will make a decision tonight at Big Night Out. I doubt this actually happens, though. I think this is just some internet rumor that caught on that everybody's just kind of running with right now because the likelihood of it happening is pretty high because of how often he shows up on the show.
Well, after this break, if you're a collector, I want you to hear this story. And if you just got into collecting, or your significant other or your children are starting to save these, autographed events, or, on screen, on, anything collectible, whether it's records all the way to, signed guitars, signed jerseys, I want you to hear this story. And I'm going to give you a little tip as a long-time collector on stages and steps of things that you should take in mind before you start, sliding that debit card on your Amazon account or eBay or even social media. This guy that I'm going to tell you about is going to be why. And we'll wrap up the segment talking UFC. And tomorrow we'll welcome, for the first time on this radio show,
yes,
Tyson Hayes, local comedian, will be joining us on Therapy Thursday. ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
and welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick, that's Sparky. And Spark, before we went to break, you had teed it up. This is a very, very cautious story that we got to tell you guys because Sparky is a massive collector. I'm a somewhat big collector. I like to keep things that I like about, that give me the serotonin boost and whatnot, as some of you do. But Sparky knows much, much more about this than
I have a couple stories that I could share as well, but this one just hits a little home because there are thousands of people around the country that do this on a regular, and it bugs me to no end. But Sparky, explain what happened with this guy.
So a former California resident pleaded guilty last week on selling more than, which was a low bid, but $250,000 in fake memorabilia. And they're like Burdick had mentioned, there's different types of collectors. I mean, if I started collecting vinyl when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I still have the records what I had when I was 5, and it had built up. And as a Dolphins and a undercover hardcore Kiss fan, and if anybody knows, Kiss is like the memorabilia kings. They've made money off of everything. So I kind of put a stop to that. But this guy and a lot of other people that aren't in this case, but they go on, they able to Google search what items and signatures look like, and then they'll fake the signatures. And then they go on, there's all sorts of they call them Raz pages on social media where people go to, buy signed items or special items, numbered items, all the way back to, first editions of books, the Harry Potter. There's different groups that of hobbies that people save. You'll go back to Star Wars. If you've ever watched the show Pawn Stars, people that have, the original action figures from the first Star Wars, or anything and everything you can be a collector of. Well, this guy, did it for 9 years straight, that he was selling these things, whether it was on eBay or social media. And now he lives in Rosarito, Mexico, but he appeared in U.S. District Court in Santa Ana last week on one count of a mail fraud, and he faces a maximum of 20 years in federal prison on selling almost $1 million. It says in 250,000 in the first case, but it goes all the way up until almost $900,000. So what he was doing, he would go into these pages and see, what's hot. Certain things will go up and down. Sadly, my wife has a Wayne Gretzky autographed jersey that she's trying to get rid of online. And I told her, this is probably a good time to do it after Ovi broke his record. People are looking for Gretzky types things, especially with, Ovi items. But this guy went all the way to faking a signature from a Kobe Bryant jersey, which, pricey. That wouldn't be cheap. Something that, a Lakers or just a flat out Kobe fan would want in their collection, whether they frame it, put it up in their man cave. And the guy was just, taking advantage of people online and people that don't understand the collector world. Is there steps on making something authentic? There is fans that, that just want to collect, for example, Justin Timberlake. They have a picture of Justin Timberlake, or they have a figure, and it is where the line ends. It's just going to stay in their room or stay in their collection. But there is a whole underground business of these people that are just selling items. I mean, they'll go pick up a record at Target and put a fake Taylor Swift autograph on it, and then immediately go on eBay and try to sell it and try to sell you on a story. I've heard hundreds of stories. Oh, I got it signed at a game, or I got it signed at a concert. So if you are a collector and you want to make sure it's authentic before you break the bank, especially how money is these days, money's tight for everybody. So I would be, my heart would be broken if you go out and try to get something for one of your kids, or, your mom, she's a big Eagles fan, and you go want to get something signed, or, go on eBay and buy something that's signed. Make sure that, one, there's a JSA or a Beckett certificate. And not only, anybody could put a sticker on an item and tell you it's a certificate and it's, approved. But what you do is there is anywhere from a 5 to 8 number on each sticker.
Mhm.
And the stickers come with a card that match that sticker. So JSA and Beckett are the number one, authority of, what's real. Anybody can print out. I can make one right now, the early bird special approved signature, and put a sticker at Costco and put it on an item and tell you on eBay, oh yeah, it's a certificate of authenticity, and give me $700 for this or whatever. So this guy was doing it for almost 10 years. And what's funny is what those stickers, what I was saying is these stickers have a almost a barcode number, and you can go on jsa.com or beckett.com and look up the number, and they will show you a picture of that item. And not only is it on the card or the stickers, so you have to do your work if you want to, break open the wallet and buy items like this. And it is sad because he was doing it for years, and 20 years. I mean, that's serious business. But what makes this story funny is, he went through Hunger Games, Twilight, Star Wars, the Kobe jersey,
Yep.
Fake autographs on guitars. But what really popped him was in November of 2019, the guy mailed a Keeping Up with the Kardashians photograph that was purposely signed by all the Kardashians. And he didn't do his homework, because when he faked that signature, he actually sent it to an undercover FBI agent.
Oh, dummy.
So karma is real.
Well, and there's also, I was reading on The Athletic the other day about when they posted theirs that I guess this guy moved to Mexico in order to dodge taxes from the United States, about 1.4 million in taxes, by the way. And amongst other things, I mean, and I know it said a maximum of 20, but wasn't it a maximum of 20 per count too?
Yes.
So technically he's actually seeing much more than 20 years in prison. Like
Hopefully.
this guy's not getting out. Like, cause he's got 13, from what I read here, he's got 13 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of mail fraud, and 3 counts of aggravated identity theft. So this guy he's not seeing just 20 years in prison. He's going there for a very, very long time. And like Sparky said, this is a great, great lesson for anybody who wants to either get into collecting, or if you are a collector, make sure that you're buying from credible people. We know people around town here that are fantastic, that own their own shops that you can go check out. And it's just know who you're buying from. Don't buy off of Facebook Marketplace. I was telling Sparky, I have a situation where a buddy of mine bought a television off of Facebook Marketplace. I go with him to pick it up, and it was 2 pieces of plywood that were wrapped together. I apologize, with trash bags and saran wrap to make it look like, and it was all hidden in a box. Don't trust everybody. There are some people that are just out there to make a quick buck on other people who are dumb enough to, believe everybody, or I shouldn't say dumb enough, but ignorant enough to just believe everybody is a good person. Know that these people are out there, and honestly, $250,000 in fake memorabilia. And there's another one. The one that got me that I'm reading here is he was selling fraudulent signed pictures of the Beatles standing with a quote unquote celebrity boxer. Yeah. I don't know exactly how much you know about the Beatles, but most of them ain't on this planet no more.
Yeah, and a lot of them didn't sign. They weren't together to sign a lot of these pictures. You can date stamp these things. But another thing is, I mean, if you're a collector and you just so happen to, meet one of your favorite artists and they sign something for you,
right?
It's not that difficult. I mean, you can send $20 and send it to JSA. I have a buddy in Vegas, so I have, they have a big office in Vegas for JSA. Beckett, the same thing. You go to their website, you take a picture of your thing, you send them $20, you mail it out, and within a day or two, they'll grade it, give you the authenticity, or tell you if it's fake. But they have professionals that, will turn in that, $20 moment, into some serious money. And, it just, if you're going to be in that business, which is a dirty and secretive type business, when you're selling signed items or, special items, just do it the right way.
Right.
Because it's sad. You know how many people, that one that popped in was a $200 Kardashian picture. that's $200, and we're looking at anywhere to start low, 250 grand that he was getting from people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just.
Don't get me wrong. I know people need to make money in this world, and you got to do what you got to do to survive. Totally understand that. But when it comes at the expense of other people's happiness or really their well-being and money, it's wrong. I'm sorry. No matter which way you shake it, it's wrong. It shouldn't be happening. So this is, again, another story of just a good lesson for everybody out there. Be mindful of who you're buying from and just trust the people you're buying from, because you never know what these people are trying to pull. So, but we got to go to break real quick, pay some bills. On the other side, we got some stories out of the UFC 314 happening this weekend. But we have some stories about something a little closer to home than that. So we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Early Bird Special at 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield, streaming live on ESPNBakersfield.com and video streaming live on YouTube at the Early Bird Special.
Hand grenade pins and every.
We end every show with a Linkin Park song. He's my favorite band. Is it really? Absolutely. Right on. I get to see him a couple times before testing test, but I'm digging this new singer. I honestly, I won't get into that right now. My gonna it's not the same.
I mean,
Sorry,
obviously,
it's
it
not the
can't be
same.
just replace Chester.
Well, yeah, I'm just glad they're not. I need them to make more new music. I think that's what it really needs to do. Is I love Mike. I love the direction they're going. I love they're not done. But realistically, just don't let her sing Chester's songs. Not that she can't.
Well,
She
he can't.
can. It's just more of
Well, the
when
other
you
dude can't
try.
sing.
I know,
so-
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Mike is a great rapper, but his vocalizing has gone down a little bit throughout the years. I actually never got to see them with Chester live. I got to
Aw,
go to the
man.
tribute show after Chester
Oh,
died,
nice.
which
That'd
was
been a cool
awesome.
show. Yeah.
But I did not get to see him live, unfortunately. But yes, Linkin Park is still to this day
Right
my
on.
favorite band of all time because of
They're
my
a hell
dad.
of a band live. It's one of those bands that I
You know-
didn't like when they were playing on the radio a lot, all over and over and over. But once I saw them live, I had to give them some
I was
respect.
supposed to go see them when they were part of a tour. I can't remember what festival it was.
I
It
saw
was
the Project Revolution.
That's what it was.
That's when
I was
saw.
supposed to go to that, and something happened where either our tickets didn't come in or like we didn't get them or something like that. I can't remember. I
It
was
was
young
them,
and
Korn, and Snoop Dogg.
Right.
And I was shocked because it was out at Devore in the middle of a field.
Right.
And Korn was like on top. And
I
I was
think-
surprised because it was the time where Snoop was on
Yeah.
parole. And
there was
so
a
he
lot
couldn't
of
smoke weed.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I think that was more why we didn't go. I think my dad got the tickets. This is all alleged. Don't. I don't know
Yes.
if my dad's listening. I'm sorry, but I think there was more of a I don't want to take my kid to a music festival kind of
Oh,
feel.
yeah.
I think they thought it was a concert when they found out it was an actual festival. Because I was also really excited to go see Seosin at the same time and all the other people playing at this thing, and we just didn't end up going.
Well, when
and I was
Snoop
like,
came
eh.
out, the cops came out on horses.
Oh.
And I was surprised because I'm a big Korn fan, but Korn was opening for Linkin Park.
Right.
And I was like, what?
Yeah,
What
it
is
was
this? And then I didn't understand that Linkin
don't-
Park was so big,
at the time
around the
yeah.
world, actually.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think it was necessarily an opening up situation. It was more of a like they're mutually doing a show together.
Three-header.
Like, yeah, because Korn also is fantastic and is huge in their own right. But let's get back to a little bit of sports here. You are listening to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Excuse our music talk. It's something that you're going to have to deal with.
Part of it.
But we do have a couple stories coming out of the UFC. As I said, UFC 314 happening this weekend in Miami. But I think we have a text message first, Sparky. So let's get that off the board.
It went back to the last question or about the collectibles and said that he actually bought something off of a Facebook, like you had mentioned. And he said, man, I'll top that TV one. He said he went to buy a bunch of music equipment. And when he got home and went to plug in everything, he didn't double check. And there was no wiring, no power supply, no nothing.
So
and you could see that they had snipped it and it was blown out speakers. There was there was no power inputs. And the thing was just broken.
Oh my! See, and this is what I'm talking about. Don't buy anything off of Facebook or Facebook Marketplace first and foremost, but look and make sure what you're buying is actually what they put up there. That's why I don't really care for eBay a lot of the time too, because you never know what you're bidding on. But it is what it is. We've talked enough about that, and it's just.
Yeah, I'm sorry, brother, but that probably learned a lesson.
No, yeah, and absolutely that is worse than my buddy's situation. 100%, you're right. But let's talk a little bit of UFC before we get out of here. As I said, 314 is this weekend, April 12th, from the Cassia Center in Miami, Florida. They'll be starting the pay-per-view at 7 p.m. Prelims at 5. Alexander Volkanovski taking on Diego Lopez. That'll be your main event. Michael Chandler taking on Paddy Pimblett. And that'll be the lightweight battles you'll see most likely. I think the Volkanovski would be for the title as well, the featherweight belt. Rodriguez will be taking on Pitbull. Silva will be taking on Bryce Mitchell. And Nikita, I always get this guy. Krylov, I believe, is how you actually say it. I always get his last name wrong. I apologize. We'll be taking on Dominic Reyes. That'll be your actual main card. The prelims, you'll have to go look up yourself because I'm not going to go down that line. There's way too many of them. However, there's a bigger UFC story going on right now if you're in the Bakersfield area because Cain Velasquez, former UFC champion, will be serving out his 5-year sentence at Wasco State Prison. This is interesting because some of you who may not know this story, Cain was charged in a shooting from 2022 where he chased a man who he accused of molesting his son. He pled no contest to attempted murder, felony assault, and other related gun charges last August as he went, as the district attorney's office called a vigilante shooting spree. I'm actually reading from The Athletic.
And February of 2022, the two-time UFC champion fired a gun multiple times at a truck carrying 3 people, including 46-year-old Harry Goularte, who was facing felony charges at the time for molestation of children. He was working a family-owned daycare in which the Velasquez's son was brought to and left into the care. Obviously, these charges came out against him. I believe he is still facing said charges, but Kane being Kane took it to a whole nother level. And obviously, I know a lot of parents out there who have vocally said they would have done the exact same thing and are not happy Kane is in prison for doing this.
But the red flag was while he was doing that, it was around a school.
Right. And he didn't hit the kid, obviously, with the shots, but it's a very, very scary situation. He has since come out on multiple podcasts and said what he did was wrong and he should not have done that. It is not the way to go. And vigilante justice is not okay in any way, shape, or form. However, I feel for the man. I know a lot of people who do feel for the man. He will be serving a 5-year sentence. Will most likely get out early due to good behavior, I would assume. But I want to end it on this note as well. It's kind of funny because how many of those prisoners do you think are just lining up to fight Kane right now because they think they can beat up a UFC fighter?
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck with that, because this is one of the baddest men on the planet. And I promise you right now, that brown power tattoo is going to get him in a lot of trouble. Just saying. But that is the early bird special for the day. Thank you for joining us on this Wild Thing Wednesday. Hope we could entertain you as much as we could in these 2 hours. Join us back here tomorrow. Tyson Hayes from The Well will be joining us, as well as another Therapy Thursday. So if you got anything you want to get off of your chest about your team, your sport, or whatever it is, we will give you the platform and we will help you get through it. But until then, I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. This is the early bird special. Sparky, let's get out of here.
Yes, and go Lakers. I hope the Lakers and Luka win tonight.